This lens is sharp, lightweight, and comes in at a banging price. Right now, you're seeing me on the Viltrox 56mm f1.7 new Air Series aps-c lens. But what is the biggest flaw of this lens? Well, I will get into that at the end of this video. Alright, so you saw the footage. That was all shots with the Viltrox lens on my A7C. My son is in karate, and so I figured I would take a lot of photos there, and it would be a great place to really try out the portrait stuff. And then I just figured, well, I'm here, might as well shoot some video footage of it. So pardon the colors, it's still 8-bit, and the lighting was kind of terrible in there, but you can see it still does a really good job of focusing on subjects and tracking and like that. And even as I was using it, there was times where I thought I was using a Sony lens. Viltrox did send this lens to me to review. I got picked as like one of the 15 people that got a copy of this lens, and I might have to send it back depending on the quality of the video, I guess. I don't know. I haven't heard back from him about that yet. This is the Viltrox 56 1.7 on the ZVE 10 Mark II. The reason why I didn't use this camera for photography of my son's event is because I'm still not as familiar with this as I was the A7C, and the A7C had in-body stabilization, which this lens is not capable of doing with the ZVE 10 because it's not a Sony branded lens. It needs to be a Sony branded lens to enable image stabilization for this because it's only digital and there's no IBIS in this camera. So I just figured it would be better for me to test that on the A7C and to give this lens a fair enough shot. The lens was very sharp, and we'll go through some of those images a little bit later. This is made really great for aps-c cameras that are this small. It is extremely lightweight. It feels great. It is made of plastic, but I feel like the quality of this plastic is pretty solid. I'm not gonna lie. It seems like it could take a drop, even though it is made of plastic, but I wouldn't test that out. I also like that the USB port is behind the lens so that it's covered by all the elements when you're outside shooting. This lens is not weather sealed. It doesn't have a weather sealed gasket, but Viltrox did mention that they have a special coating that is water resistant or something along those lines. So you could shoot with this in the elements upon your discretion. I wouldn't do that without the weather sealed gasket, but if it does get a little bit of drizzle on it, just note that the glass is safe. It is pretty light. It does come with a lens hood. It's nothing too fancy, but it does get the job done. It's a 52mm lens ring, so if you get those filters, you need to get a setup ring or get the 52mm filters. This lens performed extremely well in autofocus. It really autofocuses very well. It did very well at tracking and kept up with the subjects. I did notice that a time or two it would change subjects, so I would touch a subject's face. It would do a pretty good job of tracking, but it would eventually switch to somebody else's face. Once again, I don't know if that's the camera or the lens or just a combination of the third-partiness, but overall, this thing was super speedy and fast. I did a lot of video tests here in my studio. It grabbed my eye immediately, grabbed my face immediately. For the most part, I don't even think that you would tell a difference between the Sony lens or the Viltrox lens just unless you're really just critiquing it and trying to like compare apples to apples, they're so close. So I think Viltrox did a fantastic job with these new motors in this lens, and all for the price tag of $180, which is just mind-blowing. I showed some of my friends these photos, and they said they were blown away by the quality that you can get when you spend just this little money on a lens. They said there's no reason for anybody, unless they're a super big professional, to go out and spend a ton of money on a lens unless you're getting paid for it. So this is a really perfect lens for people who want to get into portrait photography, or maybe they want an 85mm lens for their full frame camera and really test it out. I mean, for $180, you really can't go wrong with this. That's all those shots I shot on my A7C in aps-c crop mode, and they're still super sharp. So I think it's very impressive lens for the quality. You really can't go wrong with buying this lens if you're strictly on a budget and you want the best quality possible. But that being said, let's jump over to my computer. Let's check out some of these images and we'll see what we got here on this Viltrox lens. I've edited a number of photos already, and then there's some that I haven't edited at all, and I'll just show you both of those. It's starting to get so crazy good on these third-party lenses, and these budget ones specifically, you're going to get like maybe a 10% increase in quality to spend thousands more. So the first image, these were shot outside. These were shot, this is my son after his karate thing. I just thought, portraits is really where this, obviously, focal length is really going to shine. You can do, whatever you want with it, but I'm just looking at the detail on this. His eyes look great. As I zoom in here, you can really see the sharpness. Everything from just his lips, and the background is like nice and bokeh and crispy. That background separation on this lens is fantastic. There's not really too much chromatic aberration going on around the edges too, especially where you see sunlight. There's not a lot of fringing color between this black and this background. Overall, just a fantastic control of big things you'd look for in more budgetary lenses. All these photos, you can just look at the background and say, wow, that's why people shoot an 85mm, just for that awesome background separation. The eyes are like super in focus too. The focusing on this lens, I could barely tell it was not a Sony lens. There's a little bit of fringing here when you go maybe zoom in a little bit in the hair where the sun hits it ever so slightly. I don't know. I'm just really trying to nitpick on this lens, and I honestly don't see too much. People said there's some vignetting on this. I've seen other people say, it's not super terrible. There is a little bit around the edges, but honestly, when I'm doing a lot of portrait stuff, I like to add vignetting in anyway to kind of focus in on my subjects. So it really depends on what kind of photography you're doing or how much it's going to affect you. But like this image right here, I don't notice very much, if any, vignetting on this image, and I didn't add anything to it or fix it. There's a little bit of movement. I didn't shoot my shutter speed nearly high enough to really pause this motion, so some of this blur is my fault as a photographer. All that to be saying, wow, it really performed really well. Keep in mind that I was shooting all these in 1.7 pretty much, because this room wasn't very bright. This shot was cool, very cool. And just tell how, sharp it was. I think I was even moving a little bit. Now here you can start seeing some of the fringing that I'm talking about here. Right here is where you look in the window where she's facing the light. You can start seeing some of the chromatic aberration and some of the fringing around her, the black to the sunlight. But I didn't notice it as much, or if any, on my son while he was outside. So I think it really depends on the situation. It really depends on how overexposed your shot is. There's a little bit on his shirt here, but like I said, it's very well controlled. I mean, if you nitpick, sure, you can find it. It's still impressive to me for a lens that's this price. I would expect a little bit more, to be honest with you. Really cool to see lenses that are this affordable. So for your average person can get these quality of shots for just your kid's karate event, your kid's sporting event. You just want to get some good portraits at your house with your nice Sony aps-c camera. You can do it. His face is crispy. You get really cool separation. It was focusing on the table fine, and the foreground is still blurred out, and it looks great. It doesn't look too distracting. This guy's eye is like super sharp. I mean, man, it's a great looking lens. And this guy was moving fast, mind you, when he was doing this. I started getting a handle on my shutter speed and really pausing motion. The portrait shines. Here you can see, even like here, you thought you'd see some more fringing, but it's not. It's very well controlled. I love this shot. I don't know why. It looked really cool. I loved the 85mm focal length. Really shine through for this one. Background is really blurred out. All you can tell, this kid's focusing on something, and you have the branding of the karate place right there. I mean, it was great. This is one of the shots I sent to the karate facility. Instructor here in a pose. The background is separating while you're focusing on the subject. A nice little adorable kid. I mean, who can't get wrong? And then this guy, he's my son, so of course I got a bias. He is totally cute. For 180 bucks, I hope Viltrox keeps on producing lenses like this one. And so I say now, what is the biggest flaw with this lens? I said in the beginning of the video, there's one big flaw with this lens, and that is that Viltrox just nailed it out of the park too much and is making it way too hard for competition. At 180 bucks, they made this lens too cheap for how good it is. I said it here, I said it now. It's a very good, I would expect this lens to be at least a $300 lens at this price bang for performance. So kudos to you, Viltrox. Please keep producing lenses this good at this cheap. Try it for yourself. Pick up this lens. You really can't go wrong. And like I said, if you got any problems with it, just, buy it on Amazon, and don't tell Amazon that I told you it's okay, but just return it if you didn't like it. But it's worth giving it a try. But either way, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up down below, like, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube-y things, and you guys know that I will see you in the future.